Well, hello, welcome again to our reading Homer. We're reading Odyssey Book 6, and we're up to line 223. Now, Odysseus has asked the girls if they will stand back out of the way so that he can go and have a bath, because he finishes up by saying that he's embarrassed to stand naked before having come amongst these fair-tressed maidens. So we then continue Hosephath, and thus he spoke, Haide apanuthin isan, epon dara kure. And they went from isan here is that from that root from Amy Ibo. So they went apanuthin away from there, and they spoke to the kure, to the girl. Auta ho ek potamu kroa nizdeto dios Odysseus halmen he hoinota kai urios ampeken ormus. But glorious Odysseus, nidzeto, it's middle and it's imperfect, so he began to wash his skin, ek potamu, literally from the river, but we have to understand from water from the river, using river water, and he began to wash off the halmane. This is this salty scum that he's got from being in the surf, so that halme, which ampeken, which covered his broad, his back and his broad omus, his broad shoulders. Ek kephales de esmeken halos knoon atrugetoio. So this is from smako, is to wipe, and so he wiped now the knoon is just another word for this halme, really. It's the scurf, or the scum from the unwearying sea. This is one of those words that often is only ever used to describe the sea, and its meaning is disputed. Unwearying is generally one of the renderings of it. So the scum from the unwearying sea, so he wiped it from his head, but when indeed lo esato, this is like that luo verb, to wash, so when he had washed himself, panta, probably adverbial here, completely. So when he in fact had washed himself completely and applied, or literally anointed, so perhaps applied the oil, lippa, anointed himself with the oil. Hesath, from henumi, so he put on, it's a middle here, so he put around himself, the amphi goes as a preverb with that, the clothes, which the admes parthenos, admes literally means untamed, it's from connected with damasdo, so hence unmarried, maiden, pore, had provided for him. You get a later word porisdo, but you just get this pore, to provide. It's generally used just in the simple past tense here. So which the unmarried maiden had provided for him. Ton men Athenai theken dios ek geguia, medzoni tes idein kai pasona, cad de caretos ulas heki komas, hua kinthinoi anthe homoias. So Athena, having been born from Zeus, daughter of Zeus, the thaken here is from Tithami, so it's in the sense she enabled him, or she made him acidane to look bigger. So she granted, perhaps almost for the Athaken. So she granted him to look madzona, bigger and fatter, so perhaps stockier, Cad we've had before a delta. This is kata, and it's a preverb with the heket down here from hiemi. So she sent down ulas komas, so curls of hair, karetos, genitive from his head, from that third declension noun for head there. So she sent down curls of hair from his head, homoias, like to the hyacinth flower. Hos de hotitis cruson pericueta etai aguro aner idris. So as some man who is Idris, this is an adjective here meaning skilled or knowledgeable, it's got that id root in there. So as when some man who is knowledgeable literally pours gold around silver. And this must be some sort of reference to making some kind of beautiful object out of metal, with pouring liquid gold down upon silver. A man whom Hephaestus dedain has taught. This is from that da root. We get it in didasco. If you look at didasco, it's a reduplicated present. Take off the iterative skirt root and you get the root da in the middle, and that's the root being used here to teach. So which Hephaestus taught, so whom Hephaestus has taught, and Pallas Athena, teknein pantoien, all sorts of craftsmanship, teknein. And he brings to completion gracious works, beautiful, elegant works. So thus did she, this is Athena, pour for him then grace upon his head and his shoulders. Hedsete perta apanothin kion epithena thalases. And afterwards he sat apanuthe, having gone away from there. So he sat epithena thalases, on the shore of the sea. Participle stillbone, which is shining or glistening, that is probably a nice translation of stillbone, glistening with beauty and grace. And the girl, this is Nausikaa, Theate, she was looking on. And indeed, then, at that time, she spoke to her well-dressed, her beautiful dressed servants, her servants with the beautiful locks of hair. Clutimu, hear me. This is an interesting expression because it's often used in later times in prayers to gods and goddesses, but here it's just used for Nausikaa to her servant. Anyway, so it says, hear me, white-armed servants, hophriti apo, so that I might speak something. Perhaps translate, since I have something to say. Upanton eketi theon. So not without the will of all the gods. We get this alpha privative here in this ek. We get it in hekon, later on willing. So not apart from the will of the gods who hold Olympus, has this man come amongst epimizgatai, literally had intercourse with, so in the social sense. So not without the will of the gods has this man come amongst the godlike Phaeacians. So he's not here by accident, it must be by the will of the gods. For indeed, previously, deat, he seemed to be ekelios, he seemed to be pretty yucky. He was very unseemly. So he seemed to me to be pretty unseemly, pretty unattractive. But now he seems like to the gods who hold broad heaven. So she's seen this transformation happen, and she said it therefore must be connected with the gods. Agar, now this, in later Greek you get epsilon iota for A, and with gar plus the optative, so would that. So that's idiomatic here, so would that, and we get this periphrastic perfect optative here, so would that such a man, such a one, might be called husband for me. So would that such a man might become or might be known as my husband, among those dwelling here. And hoi hadoi autothi mimnain. Now the hadoi is from handano. This is an optative here. Handano, it's reduplicated present. You get a nasal infix. If you take all that away, you just get the root had. And that's the root here that we're seeing, and it's an aorist optative. Handano is to please, takes a dative. So, and may it be pleasing, this is this optative after agar, may it be pleasing for him to remain, mimnain for in later Greek menain, but mimnain to remain autothi here. Aldoti amphipoloi, so give, O servants, food and drink, xeno to the stranger. Hos ephat, and thus she spoke. Hai dara tes mala men kluon e epithonto. They then, this is his ara, which you get very commonly. It has the sense of fittingly, or as you might expect, or appropriately, but that often over-translates it. It's often just translated as then, but it's used in contexts of this is the thing that is will happen most appropriately next, is the sense of this ara. It's connected with ararisco, to fit. So fittingly, perhaps you could over-translate it a little bit. So they, perhaps fittingly, they were listening very much to her, and they obeyed. So perhaps you could translate the mala as intently. So they were hearing her intently, and they obeyed. Par, for para, so the main verb here is ethesan. They placed beside, again you get this ara, fittingly, they placed beside Odysseus brosin te posite, food and drink. Eitoi hopine kai este polutlas dios Odysseus. Ha paleos deron ga edetuos en apastos. And indeed, this is much enduring, glorious Odysseus, pine, he drank, or he began to drink. It's an imperfect without augment, and this is an imperfect from estheo, but without the epsilon. Sorry, without the iota, and you get an augment at the front here. So he began to drink and to eat. Harpalios, greedily, connected with harpasdo, to snatch. So greedily. Deron gar, for, now understand the verb to be, he was apastos, without tasting of food. This is a genitive here. So he was untasted of food, literally. So he hadn't tasted food, and there's the a in the past tense of the verb to be here. So he was untasted of food, deron, for a long time. So it had been a long time since he'd had anything to eat. Aute Nausikaa Luke Olenos al enotesen. but. Now we get an altar is a very strong but. It's used for a change of idea, introducing almost a new paragraph. So but, as the editor has done here. So but Nausikaa, with who had white arms, so white-armed Nausikaa, and not Esen, she had thoughts, she had other thoughts, so she had other ideas. Hemat ara ptuxa satithe kales epenes. So she began, imperfect again, she began, so having folded the clothes, again you get this ara, then she began to place them on the beautiful wagon, so that epenos we've had before. Zeuxen dehemionus krateronoukas, and she yoked the mules with their strong hooves. An debe arte. Now you've got to be a bit careful here. This is not the this is not the arm that you use with the subjunctive and so on. This is not that particle. This is actually ana, and it's a preverb with ebe. So this is actually from anabino, but the alpha's dropped out for the sake of meter, but it is in fact from anabino. So she herself got on board. She mounted this wagon. Otrunen de Odysseus, she stirred up Odysseus. And she, the standard phrase here, epos tefat ekte onomasden. She spoke a word and named him. Well, I don't think at this stage he's actually told her his name, so this is just one of these stock phrases that Homer uses quite a lot. It's sort of like a filler of the line, but she hasn't actually, I don't think she actually knows his name yet. She just knows him as O Stranger, but so you can't press the name business here too much. Orsio de xene polinda imen. Hina sepempso patros emu postoma de phronos. Entha sephema panton phaekon de semen hosoi aristoi. Arise, this is from Ornumi. Arise then, indeed, O stranger. Now the imen is probably an infinitive, to go to the city. So arise for the purpose of going to the city, to go to the city. Offer, so that I might send you to the house of my strong-minded father. Again, there's debate about exactly how to translate this one. Fierce-minded, strong-minded father. Entha, where Fami, I say that you, and we get here a future infinitive. It's possibly from oida, in fact probably from oida here. There may be an old verb, adami, but it's a future infinitive. You've got this oid, or this aid root of seeing and knowing, and so here it's future. So I say that you will get to know, and taking a partitive genitive, all the Phaeacians, hosoi aristoi, as many as are the best. And we'll resume the story in the next recording.